On today's show, we'll head to Toronto's Arrowsmith School, an amazing place that has had great success in helping kids with learning difficulties. And we'll also talk to the founder of the Arrowsmith method, a woman who's credited with literally fixing her own brain. Hi, I'm Samantha Shatzky, and welcome to Body and Health. For children with learning disabilities, school can be a scary place. Not only do they struggle to understand what's being taught in the classroom, they're often teased for having trouble. But one unique school in Toronto is making a difference. The Arrowsmith school curriculum is designed to fire up the areas of a child's brain that were underperforming, and its methods are getting astonishing results.
I feel like it's like in memory, like in that muscle memory.
Yeah. My writing's been a lot better lately. I like it. Failed like every grading grader. Geography, math, history, except for geo. Writing is worse than reading, that's what it is. Like I can read better than I can write.
What Barb has done is she's identified 19 specific learning areas of difficulty. And so through her assessment, through her testing, what we're now able to do is to pinpoint the exact areas of the brain that are weak. And she's designed programs that allow the children to work on the weak area of the brain in isolation.
Right now I'm doing tracing. For this, you have to stay inside the green line.
Right.
It's pretty hard for me because I'm learning to hold my pen properly.
I just write 4 symbols down like that, and I'm supposed to memorize those symbols, and like, if I could do it, my eyes closed, then I got the symbols memorized. And then I just keep on going and writing it down until I get faster and faster and faster.
25, 55, 1, 10, 25, 7, 5.
So what are you doing?
I'm just doing 4-handed clocks.
And are you good at this?
I really suck at it. I'm really slow.
Well, there's only one way to get better, right?
Yeah.
It's 8-handed clocks. This is the month hand. This is the day hand. This one's the hour hand, minute hand, second hand, millisecond hand. And this is the stopwatch.
So the kids will say to me, "Why are you teaching me to tell time?" I'm not teaching them to tell time. I'm using that clock as the vehicle to work the parts of the brain that need to be worked in conjunction with each other.
She was standing.
They're actually using their brain to gather information, to look at spatial relationships, to correlate the information that they have, to look at the information that comes in and to internalize it all and to put it back out.
23.
Good. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. She was standing to the waist with a field of flowers, her hair out of place.
Okay. That shows that you know what it is. So just go practice that a couple more times and you get it. Good job.
She's standing with open and covered with roll, making a garden.
Get stuck on that one?
Yeah.
That was your first try. That was a good start. You go back and listen to it a couple more times, you'll get it.
Okay.
Good try.
We often liken it to a muscle where we strengthen the muscle. We do exercises to strengthen the muscle. So we work the weak part of the brain in isolation, and what happens is we start to strengthen it and it comes up to level. Then it's able to do what it was designed to do.
You've just seen some of the exercises the kids in the Arrowsmith program do as part of their daily routine, but they work. Find out how these exercises are helping them learn right after the break. Welcome back to Body and Health. I'm Samantha Shatzky. The Arrowsmith School claims an 80% success rate, meaning most of the kids eventually reintegrate into the regular school system. But while attending Arrowsmith, students learn much more than just the 3 R's. They also learn how to succeed.
Are things better here for you?
Yeah, it's a lot easier here for me because everybody's like me, so nobody can really make fun of me. Because it's all, we have same, well, not really the same problems, but we all have a learning disability, so not many people can make fun of me.
You feel more that you belong, and it's a better environment for you, I guess.
I meet a lot of children when I do assessment. There was one little boy in grade 7 last year that I went to assess, and just prior to doing the testing, we sort of took some time to get to know each other. And at one point, I asked him how he felt about school, and he said to me, for me to come to school, it feels to me like I'm the lowest of the low. I'm on the ground, and there's nothing beneath me because there's nobody lower than what I am. Now, that's a 12-year-old boy in grade 7. And if you really think about that, it's really quite shattering. And so we did assessment, and we put this little boy into the program. What I saw after a year and a half in the program for this boy was, I saw smiles on his face. He got a friend. He learned how to have a friend and how to be a friend. He was able to look at people in the face. He was able to do quite a bit of schoolwork that he wasn't able to do before. And I think for this boy, for the first time in his life, he encountered the word success.
I'm going to review a few exponents with you. What do you do first, Ian?
6 divided by 2.
Which is?
3.
And then, when I was teaching math today, that's right, you probably saw some of the children being able to call out 2 to the exponent 6 is 64. Well, they couldn't remember that 2 times 2 was 4 before they came into the program. So one particular boy today said, I used to hate math. I couldn't remember anything. And now he can remember, and he's starting to like it. And he's also feeling good about himself. So the self-concept goes way up. That's right. 8 take away 3, and the answer is?
5.
Excellent.
And how are you feeling about individual subjects?
Well, I'm better at math. I find it interesting because before I was horrible at math, and now I can understand it a lot easier. I love it.
The exponent, that's correct.
There's nothing magic about this program. It's hard work, and it's boring, and many times it's frustrating for the children. But what happens is there's a shift. When the part of the brain that is weak becomes strong, there's a shift that goes over into the academics, so they're now that part of the brain is now able to do what it was designed to do.
I don't notice them, which is the most interesting thing. I had no idea. One time when I was reading something off the movie, a movie that my parents were watching, and I read it to them, and they were like blown away, and I'm like, what did I do? And I had no idea that I'd done this, but it was so fluid, and they were like, you read that beautifully, and I'm like, I did? Like, because I don't notice it, because it just comes to me now.
Things I didn't know how to spell before, I know how to spell now, all of a sudden.
It's like a part of your brain started to open up?
Yeah. I love that feeling. When you get this weird feeling after like a month of this program, when you first start off, it feels like there's something working, something like that. I love it.
Cool. And the best part of the program, although there's great academic success that follows when the weak areas are strengthened, is that the students start to feel good about themselves. For the first time, many of these kids encounter something called success, and it's a wonderful feeling for them.
Totally amazing. You feel so wonderful when you see a child suddenly say, I read that whole page by myself. It's just so thrilling for the child, for the parents, and for me. I get to witness that. They can go out into the world and function just as well as anyone else.
The founder of the Arrowsmith School understands the feelings of frustration and hopelessness children with learning difficulties can have. Barbara Arrowsmith Young was born with a wide array of learning challenges herself. But with dogged determinism, she eventually conquered her disabilities by developing what is now known as the Arrowsmith method. And Barbara joins me now to tell us more. Thank you so much for being here, Barbara.
Thank you.
What were some of your challenges growing up?
I had a lot of trouble learning how to read initially. I read everything backwards.
You read everything backwards?
I read everything backwards.
So you mean from literally from right to left?
That's correct.
Really?
Yes, and wrote everything backwards. When I went to add, if I was adding 16 plus 17, I would add it as 61 plus 71, and then I would reverse my answer. So it was true, like mirror writing, mirror reading. So I had difficulty right in grade 1, and my parents were called in, and at that point they didn't really understand learning disabilities, so my parents were told that I had a mental block, and being quite literal, I actually envisioned that I had a cube in my head that was getting in the way of learning. And I mean, that was just the beginning. Eventually I did learn how to read the correct way with lots of drill and write the correct way. But it was a struggle, and I didn't really understand. I had a lot of problems with comprehension, so I would read something, and it was like reading Greek or Chinese. It made no sense to me, so I might have to read it 15, 20, 25 times before I would really understand. And the same thing in listening to people discussing our conversations. A lot of trouble understanding, so feeling very isolated, and a lot of trouble with concepts in mathematics. So
I understand you couldn't read a clock.
No, I couldn't read a clock. I mean, right up until I was 28, I couldn't read a clock. So I was happy when digital clocks came in, because that was a lot easier. You're just reading numbers. But I couldn't understand the what the hands meant. Again, it was like comprehension. I just didn't understand the meaning of what time was, or the logic of number, the concept. Yes.
But you made it through school and high school and university. How did you do that?
I did it. I came from sort of very determined family, and my parents, or my mother very early, drilled me a lot with flashcards. So sort of I became, I guess, a workaholic at about grade 2 or 3. I'd come home at lunch and study. I'd study after school, and just had also phenomenal memory. So I would memorize everything. So I would start with my notebooks, and I would memorize one line, and then I'd add the second line, and eventually I'd get to the point where I could close my eyes and visualize the whole notebook, and then I'd pray on the exam that first I would understand the question, and then if I understood it, that I could match it up with the right page that I'd memorized and put the answer down. But I was never certain, so I would walk out of an exam and think I might have gotten 0% or I might have gotten 100%, depending on whether I made the right match. But there was really no comprehension, and it was very isolating, because even in social situations I didn't understand a lot of times what people were saying or what they were meaning, and so really couldn't participate.
Wow. How did your life begin to change?
Well, when I was in graduate school, sleeping 4 hours a night because I needed to do that amount of work to get through, I came across 2 lines of research, one out of Russia, a man named Luria studying brain function, and one out of California, a man named Rosenzweig studying stimulation of brain function. And in one of Luria's descriptions, he talked about people that couldn't tell time or read clocks. So I thought if I could create an exercise that could stimulate function, like the work that was coming out of California, maybe I could actually change something. And I didn't know if it would work. I figured, what do I have to lose but time? And I was already losing time.
Right.
So I created this first exercise with reading the hands on a clock. And after a certain point, I mean, I worked at it 6-7 hours a day, day after day.
Amazing.
I got to a point where, I mean, it's embarrassing to say, but I could watch 60 Minutes and actually understand what they were saying. I mean, that's not really a very complicated program, but before I couldn't. I could actually open up a book and read a page, and in the first read through the page, understand. And it was just like light bulbs started going off. So I thought, if there is value.
You can do it.
That's right. If there's value in putting these lines of research together, maybe I can find other exercises for other areas to help other people, and that's sort of what the foundation of the school
is.
Yes.
And you are going to stay right here, because when we return, Barbara will show us some of the other brain exercises that she has helped develop for the Arrowsmith program to fire up learning potential. Stay with us. Excellent. Welcome back to Body and Health. I'm Samantha Shatzky. We're here with Barbara Arrowsmith-Young, the founder of the Arrowsmith School in Toronto, a school that's had amazing results teaching students with learning disabilities. Now, we saw in the story that some kids were doing some strange-looking exercises, and many of them were wearing eye patches. Why do they wear those?
Well, they wear the eye patch. They cover the left eye because the right eye, the eye motor movements, are talking to the brain area over here that's involved in translating thought into the written process. And we want to isolate that area specifically, so we put the patch on to suppress stimulation getting into other areas.
Right.
And this is an example of the exercise that the students do, and you can see that
so they're tracing
here, and you can see this is the one where the student's having trouble, and it's like motor planning.
Over
so
here, the child is having trouble.
having difficulty, and over here, this is where they've been able to keep the red inside the green. And what happens, it's not so much that we want them to trace characters.
Right. That's not the objective.
Not the objective, but it's motor planning and organizing thought into the writing process. So this is the kind of change that you get when a student does this work. This is the same student. They're handwriting or they're printing initially, and then they move into handwriting. And this is without any practice in handwriting, but it's stimulating the area that translates.
That's an amazing transformation, and I can see the dates. It's only taken about a year.
That's correct. That's correct. And it's not just that the writing is more organized, but more content gets down on paper. This is the child that picks up the pencil and freezes. They can't put their thoughts into written form, but they can articulate orally. And what we see as we do that exercise with the eye patch, it removes the filter, and they can then write, and the ideas flow out the end of the pen.
It sounds like it's literally working the brain as if it is a muscle, areas of the brain.
It is. I mean, it's not exactly like a muscle, because when we stop exercising, our muscles atrophy. What happens with this work is once the function is there and it's been stimulated, it starts to get its own exercise by being used in intellectual activities. And I've tracked people 20 years out of the program, and there's no drop-off of function. So it's better than a muscle.
Well, that's good. One thing I'd like to point out, children with learning disabilities are smart. You know, we tend to think that they're not.
They definitely are. I mean, the students that come to me, the whole definition of having a learning disability is that you're at least average in intellectual functioning or above, and a number of the students that I see are above average, and they've had to struggle, but they can't fully utilize their intelligence because of the blocks and the filters. But these are bright kids, and it's so exciting when you remove the deficit and they can go forward, they can function. I just had a student return to me. He's been at the program 2 years, and he's applied to Queen's in engineering and will probably get in, and is getting like 90s, 98s in his courses. And this is a student a few years ago that was reading at a grade 2 level.
My goodness. Now, you're starting to take this program elsewhere, not just at the Arrowsmith School.
That's correct. My real vision is to get this into the publicly funded system so that students who can't afford private tuition can access the program. And we're in 7 schools in the Catholic School Board, 2 schools in the publicly funded school board in Vancouver, and also a number of private schools. But I'd like to get into a lot more publicly funded schools.
How does it feel to be making a difference in these children's lives?
I mean, it feels good. If I can reach these kids a lot younger than I was able to do this work for myself, it really has an effect on their self-esteem, their self-image, and so my goal is to try to get these kids like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. But I'm also never satisfied. I always see where I can improve the program, where there are areas that I still don't have programs for. So I'm never satisfied.
Well, you're always striving to succeed. Thank you so much for being here, Barbara. It is a fascinating program. And not only do the kids at Arrowsmith gain the ability to read and write and do math and tell time, they also gain self-esteem, as you heard Barbara say, and a sense of self-worth, which they carry with them for the rest of their lives. I guess you have dreams now that you didn't have before, that you didn't think were possible?
Before, I would figure that I'd just be working in a dead-end job until I was like 50 and then have no idea what I was doing. But now I can actually do what I want to do instead of doing what I have to do to live, more than anything. Like, one of my big dreams is to do, I don't know, is to be a deep-sea welder, which I'd love to do because it's interesting. You make lots and lots of money. But I'd like to do a job where you travel, because I love to travel. And I'd love to just go travel around the world more than anything.
So you're proud of what you've done?
Yeah, I would say so, because without this, once again, I would be lost. It's actually quite interesting because you get to see it yourself progressing over the year. Like, there's some kids that couldn't even write their own name. And at the end of the year, they're able to write full paragraphs and get everything down, kind of thing.
I couldn't read an analog clock before I did clocks.
Really?
Really. Yeah, I really sucked at reading clocks, but now I can really well.
So you couldn't read a watch, you can only read a digital watch, or you can...
So that's easier for me now. People don't make fun of me anymore, so that's a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's great. Have things started to change since you've come here?
Yes, a big difference. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's weird, but I can do everything more better. It's like giving a new look on life, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I love it.
Do you feel better about yourself and your abilities?
Oh, much better now. More confident, I guess. I can even focus things better. I can notice things better now than before. It's like, when I remember before this school, it was like I was wearing a bunch of, like, fuzzy glasses or something like that, you know? I couldn't understand it. I couldn't see it very well. I couldn't write it down very well. I didn't understand any of it. Yeah. And then this school is like, you're taking off the glasses and you can see everything perfectly now.
What an amazing, liberating feeling that must be.
Very good. I love it.
Another thing that was actually quite hard for me was when I love making stories. Like, I love writing and stuff like that, but with my writing I could never, and with my spelling also. I used to just write it down, like the ideas kind of thing, and no one would be able to read it because I couldn't read my spelling because I can't spell. But I could read it myself because I knew what I was thinking kind of thing. But now I can, it flows a lot better, and people actually can read it now on my rough copy. But it's still not the greatest spelling, but people can now read it more than anything, which is nice for me because then they can see how I am doing.
They can share in your stories.
Yes, exactly.
It really is an amazing school. And we'll tell you how you can get a hold of us here at Body and Health when we come back. If you have a question or a comment about anything you've seen on Body and Health, you can reach us through our email address at bodyandhealth@canada.com. That's bodyandhealth@canada.com. If you'd like to learn more about the Arrowsmith School and its unique method of teaching kids with learning challenges, head to our website under the health banner at canada.com and you'll find the links to more information. And while you're there, be sure to check out something called My Guides, which has even more relevant health information of the day. I'd like to thank Barbara Arrowsmith Young for being our guest today and all the students at the Arrowsmith School for sharing their stories with us. And I'd like to thank you for watching. I'm Samantha Shatzky, and we'll see you next time on Body and Health.